So my story is coming out of Marijuana Moment. And hold on one second. Let me get to it. Sorry, folks.
Oh,
Okay, there we go.
see, Nicole wasn't even ready.
I was ready.
Sister file.
I'm ready. Let's go. From Mr. Ben Adlin, one of our friends over there, Latin America and Caribbean countries agreed to rethink failed war on drugs, saying it's not achieving expected results. This happened over the weekend. The story came out yesterday. 19 Latin American and Caribbean nations have issued a joint statement acknowledging the need to rethink the global war on drugs and instead focus on life, peace, and development. Under the current punitive approach, the countries said at the Latin American and Caribbean Conference on Drugs over the weekend, the expected results have not been obtained when combating the world drug problem, leaving in many cases the underlying problems to be solved and exploiting and exacerbating vulnerabilities of our territories and our societies. The 17-point statement is backed by representatives of Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Dominican Republic, yes, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Two of the most vocal countries calling for reform are Colombia and Mexico. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said the two nations are the biggest victims of this policy, likening the drug war to a genocide. Petro and Mexican President Andres Manuel Obrador announced the summit late last year. And Obrador says, what I propose is to have a different and unified voice that defends our society, our future, and our history, and stops repeating a failed discourse. Oh, I'm sorry, this was Petro. And at the closing of the conference, he said that he argued that it was wrong to look at drug control as a military problem and not as a health problem in society. Latin American nations must speak up without shame because we have nothing to hide, because those who have made the mistakes are not really us. I wonder who it is. He noted that supply side enforcement efforts have fueled an arms race between cartels and governments and also led to widespread corruption. Some of the reforms that they're calling for is to reduce the demand for drugs, for example, through education, prevention, early intervention, treatment, recovery, and related support services. Mexican president said, we have to put the first criterion that peace is the result of justice. We have to fight first against poverty, against inequality. Plants with a tradition of ancestral use, meanwhile, require their re-evaluation for traditional medical, industrial, and scientific uses, with a view to improving the coherence and effective implementation of the global treaty system with respect to the control of plants and their processed products. But it also recognizes the need to strengthen the control and oversight mechanisms in countries where diversion of plants of ancestral use occurs. Within Colombia, lawmakers advancing to a bill to legalize marijuana and are currently engaged in a series of debates, part of a 2-year process of enacting the reform. According to the United Nations Office of Drug Control Policy, Colombia remains a chief exporter of cocaine, despite drug supply reduction activities in Colombia, such as eradication of cocoa bush and destruction of laboratories. Representative Earl Blumenauer, Democrat from Oregon, who was part of a delegation that visited Colombia last year, told Marijuana Moment at the time that the one theme of his discussions with officials in the country was that the world has lost the war on drugs. In Mexico, meanwhile, top lawmakers have taken steps to craft and debate cannabis reform proposals for the past few years, but they've yet to get any piece of legislation across the finish line. I think that it's a move in this right direction, this joint statement that they've made. This is obviously something that we all know how it has negatively impacted these communities throughout the countries that were mentioned. It's going to be interesting to see how they really try to separate cocaine from cannabis because it has been such a large supply, valued supply part of their supply chain. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, how they actually separate it. I'm working with an organization on the ground in Mexico right now, 2 women advocates that are the only group on the ground in Mexico that is speaking to the government as well as speaking to the cartels. And they're trying to do that. They're trying to separate cocaine from the cannabis and bring cannabis into the marketplace and allow cannabis. And before the, what is happening in Mexico in a couple of years, I think in 2025, is it the World Cup? I think the World Cup is coming to Mexico. And so they're trying to prepare for that with getting legal, like getting some sort of a regulated system happening in Mexico right now. They're working on it. Um, I'm very interested to hear what my fellow correspondents think about this story, and how these countries are moving forward with drug reform.
I mean, I really love the quote at the end of the article where they say that it is not achieving the intended goal.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very telling in regards to the
Mm-hmm.
whole all of their statements. That one quote I found the most telling.
Yeah, one of the things they're going to try to do through education is stop the demand for drugs. How are they going to do that?
I don't know how they're going to do that.
I know how they're going to
That's
do
a
that.
weird statement.
I mean,
Yeah, when I
The
saw
fact that there's an industry shows that the demand is
there's
never
a
going away.
demand for it,
That's right.
and it said it was going to do it through education and research, and so I mean,
I think those are all just hot button words. I think that's
100%.
you know,
well, the thing about this,
pharmacy.
the thing about this, if they
Right.
really wanted to lower drug usage in a country, they would just regulate it, because once you regulate it, the drugs are not as good as they used to be, and therefore people get bored with them and go and look for something new.
Well, there'll still be a black market for all of that stuff.
Problem.
Well, I mean,
Doesn't solve a problem, right?
in Mexico, I mean, I'm not like the expert here on Mexico, so anybody who wants to chime in here, great. But how I've seen it play out in Mexico is like all of these illicit drugs that they're pushing across the border, they're selling freely in a lot of these pharmacies. Even like I'm talking like the pharmaceutical style, like the pressed fentanyl pills. You can find them in these pharmacies. You can find all the other obviously anabolic steroids, everything else from over the counter to specific prescribed
Is
controlled.
that where you get all your prescribed?
No, I don't really take medication. The only medication I take is cannabis, so
Too, brother.
I just keep it straight herbal, cannabis and coffee all day. That's just how we do over here. But that's the face they have to put on things there, right? It's like you have to elevate the street level activity a little bit for the tourists, or else no one's going to buy the drug. So it's just, to me, this is just it's like obvious, it's just a facelift that's going to happen. So I just don't know why it's a big deal. I mean, I don't know why it's got to be like a conversation piece. The government's obviously not doing anything to combat all of that stuff. Those guys are promulgating all of this industry themselves, the cartels. So yeah, it's gonna happen, but I mean, cool. People are gonna be able to smoke weed in Mexico freely, and probably not have to buy it off of like some dude on a street, but maybe like a dude in a small shop that's also like
a smock on.
I mean, technically, that store would be on the street, so you're still buying weed from some guy on the street. Come on, just saying.
I wonder how much of this is an economic argument, that these countries have just been pouring money into the war on drugs forever, and it, like they said, it's not doing it. I mean, shit, F it.
Obviously,
yeah.
Shocking, they've determined the war on drugs didn't work.
Put it towards other things.
I'm shocked. So
revelation.
Which cartel is listening to these women's groups, Nicole?
It's the cartels in Mexico.
Which one?
They're fighting over Mexico City.
They
didn't tell me the names of the cartels, but it's the cartels that are controlling the weed right now, that control the families and the land that are growing weed in Mexico. And the only way to get it from their hands and put it into the regulated system is to have conversations with them and convince them that putting this on the market, they would still benefit because they still own the farms, they still own the lands. So we just got it. They're sitting down convincing them that, look, this is going to be beneficial for you too. And figuring out how to do that. It's going to be different from how they set it up in the United States, for obvious reasons. We don't have the cartels that are fully integrated into our government, into our system, into our culture.
Oh, what do you mean? They're called MSOs.
Yeah, we do.
What do you mean?
Yeah, we do.
I mean, they're called Republicans.
They're really integrated into our government at this point. They're the ones. They're the ones making the rules. So.
They are. They're the ones that are running all of the organizations that we talked about. They are the ones that are funding those organizations. Nobody that has the best interest of consumers and patients actually has the money or the resources to be in Washington lobbying like they do right now. And so I'm going to have the ladies from Mexico come on the show. We'll plan that.
Oh, we would love that. That would be amazing, Nicole.
Absolutely, sure. We'll plan that very soon. Have that up,
That's
have them
awesome.
up
Yeah,
very
the
soon.
problem is taxes, right? The cartel's not going to want to pay taxes.
Exactly.
No,
They're not
they're
going to want
not.
to get their shit tested, right? It's all of the rules that make a regulated market.
I don't think that I don't think they're going to have a problem with their
Convincing them that
product
this-
getting tested.
No,
I
but
think they'll
that's
have a
the
problem
thing.
with if a batch of theirs fails and them getting rid of it, then they're just going to just hawk it off to some mule
No,
that's
I think the thing is
cattling
convincing
people
or
across
just the fact
border.
of imagine being in the lab calling the cartel, sir, your shit failed.
Exactly.
they're businessmen. They're businessmen, and I think that they want to keep money funneling through their businesses.
It's already funneling. It's already
Yeah, it's already
What do they
funneling.
need? What do they need the government for?
Absolutely.
Government's going to step in and fuck it up.
Yeah, the government's going to exactly, Todd. You're right. They're going to come in, fuck it up. They're going to start taking. They're going to be siphoning profits from the cartel in regards to this. And I just
That a
don't know
whole
how the
new
cartel's
drug
going to be
war
good with that.
Well,
Right.
well,
And that'll create a whole new drug war,
I'm
right?
confident in the ladies that I have spoken with on the ground as activists in Mexico, and I will have them up shortly to talk about what their plan of action is to really make it a regulated, safe industry for patients, because that's what they're going to focus on, not adult use, but patients being able to use the plant. And Mexico having some of the best in the world. That's their claim to fame, that everybody wants to come to Mexico. That's what they're trying to encourage.
We all know that's not the truth. but that's
Isn't
cute.
patient just short for adult use?
No.
Code word for adult use.
No,
I know a lot. Look,
use is recreational. A patient is a patient. Everybody uses cannabis as medicine, Todd. You know
Well,
that.
and Todd also
I agree.
in
I
the
agree. All
legislation that-
cannabis is medicine. I agree with
in the
that.
legislation that's been put forward in Mexico, this stuff is going to have to go through pharmacies. They have to be part of research projects.
Mhm.
Mexico is making a concerted effort to make this a medical
Patient
program.
forward.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right, but it won't be a medical program until it's completely regulated. It comes in pill form, or and it's not called green crack. It's called X41112 or whatever.
I dread the day, but we'll see. We'll see
Right.
if they don't have what essentially is an FDA there, and so hopefully we will be able to come up with a different way to look at this plant as medicine.
I just want to know.
I
that,
think, and let me just clear that up. I think all cannabis is medicine, just so we're clear on that. But in order to get it legal, it's been called medicine in order to open up the marketplace. I mean, let's not fool anybody. That's what California did. That's how they got it on the ballot. That's how it passed. That's how it's legal all around the country.
the cartels are going to have to own the labs if this thing is going to be successful.
That's right.
Just saying.
You
Just
can't
saying.
fail them. I
Just
wouldn't
say, yeah,
fail
you're
them.
not going to fail the cartel on the test.
I'm just letting the cartel know
what's the
if you need
point?
some stuff passed.
What's the point
let
of
me know.
test? What's the point of testing any of it if the cartel's going to
exactly
own the
right.
lab?
That's
What's the
exactly right.
point?
All right, somebody's got to keep this show on track. Keep it moving.
All right.
We got 2 more people, Jason.
We
12 minutes to go.
you are exactly
we're
right,
running on
Gretchen. I am
time.
so impressed with your math today. I am
I know.
so impressed.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah,
That West Coast math she's using.
Not
Yes.
need to smoke.